beers in their packs and they were enjoying beverage. And there were people in my crew as well as strangers we didn't know who took sips of the champagne, but I was the only one who got a ticket. So I'm all for, if I'm breaking a rule, I should, be accountable for that. But at the same time, I was the only one who got tickets. So that was quite a surprise. I didn't know anything about the Baxter State Park history. And again, we really operated in a fashion that I think was law-abiding, as well as being really sensitive to the trail. And we picked up. I didn't even leave any of my toilet paper on the trail, which a lot of thru hikers are used to digging cat holes. And of course, I left human waste out there, but I packed all my toilet paper out. Jenny actually recycled all my energy wrappers. So, as far as a thru hike that has a speed attempt attached to it, I think can be done very minimal impact. But again, the emphasis Baxter State Park really want to hit home is that thru hikers, including myself, are basically a ruckus partying group that litters and doesn't really appreciate the land, which is very unfortunate.
Sure. Is there anything that I guess I haven't asked that you kind of want the Appalachian Trail community to kind of be aware of, other than what we covered?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I think sometimes hikers and runners, trail runners, sometimes there's a divide there that I don't think should be. We're both foot users, and some people assume that if you're running on a trail or if you're trying to do a speed attempt, you don't enjoy it. And as I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of conversations. In fact, I stopped at shelters along the way, and maybe this was why I was battling within hours of the record at the end. But I really wanted to, I signed registers, I hung out at shelters, talked to the thru hikers, stopped for photos, and just asked them about their experiences as we'd hike on an uphill. They joined me, and it's just a different style, but it doesn't mean that I'm not out there enjoying things or that I'm just blazing the trail and just not saying. I saw the red F's crossing the trail, and I saw all the little salamanders, and I would smell everything. I had the spider webs hitting my face every morning, and because I was out there for so many hours each day, I got to experience the trail at basically all hours of the day, which was a unique experience. And I think people have this assumption that I wasn't enjoying it. And granted, I was in a lot of discomfort because I was sleep deprived towards the end, my muscles hurt, but I think a lot of
everybody's, I imagine everybody's in that state, right?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody gets that point. So some people might question, well, why thru hike? Or, why try to do the whole trail when you can day hike? And I think really we shouldn't be having that discussion. We should be banding together foot users such as trail runners, hikers. There's really not a divide. And I talked to Jennifer Farr-Davis about this because she gets labeled as more of a hiker. I, of course, am labeled more as a runner. And we sat down and had a coffee in Boulder when she was here a few weeks ago. We had a great discussion where it's really not hiker versus runner. We're all lovers of the trail, the mountains, and the woods, and we all are traveling on our feet. And we have to get along with mountain bikers and horse packers on the trails out west here. And I know out east, the Appalachian Trail is very unique in that it's only foot travel. But we all have to get along, and we all have to, I think, work together versus see ourselves in different compartments. So I guess that's what I would, one of the things I would try to stress.
One of the things that we've been talking here about this conference is, the Appalachian Trail has seen a lot of growth over the last few years. And you were saying that the ultra running community has seen similar growth in the last few years. Could you just touch on how maybe any plans on managing that growth? I mean, how do you do that effectively but still kind of garner support and an activity that we all enjoy?
Yeah, it is an interesting dilemma because from the ultra running side, we have the same issues with trail permits and organized events on trails. So you have to work with the land user, the land management, and the users have to abide by that. So, for instance, a race can only have in certain areas maybe 300 people, or other races allow up to 500, or some races limited it at less than 200. And the old, and I'll call myself an old timer because I've been doing this for 20 years now, but a lot of the old timers in the sport are like, gosh, I can't get into races now, and there are lottery systems, and they've actually limit the numbers, and people are like, I don't like the new ultra running, it's too many new people, and they kind of wanted the sport the same way. But in reality, as the popularity grows, which I think is a good thing, we get more people out exercising, more people using trails, the more people are going to want to protect those areas. So it's a catch-22. I know everybody wants to have the experience of being by themselves and they don't want the people out there, but the reality is we have a lot of wild places, and if you really want to be by yourself, you can find those places. I think, you know, the Appalachian Trail, unfortunately, is never going to be one of those places. There's going to be sections that are more, you know, I guess, lonely and quieter, but, you know, you have basically, you know, half the U.S. population living within, you know, 3 to 4 hours of the trail. You know, hopefully those people are coming out to the mountains. I think that's what really was the reason to establish something like the Appalachian Trail. And, you know, I think Benton, McKay, and all the original founders, their thought was, let's make this a sanctuary. And unfortunately, I don't think the sanctuary is going to be, you know, quiet and this only, you know, basically this one person experience. You're going to have to share the trail. So, which makes it unique. And I think that's why it attracts a lot of Appalachian Trail users. People want to have a social experience. And if you don't, then you might look at the Continental Divide Trail, or you might look at maybe some of the more lonelier trails right now.
Right on. Does anyone have any questions for Scott? I mean, okay, why don't you come up here and just ask him yourself? You can just come up here and go right into the screen and, yeah, if you want to say your name or whatever.
Hi Scott, I'm Rich. I through hiked in 2014.
Awesome, nice to meet you, Rich.
Nice to meet you. I have a couple of questions. One, if you were to do it again and hike, trail run the Appalachian Trail again, what would you do different? Would there be anything you'd do different?
It's a good question.
Especially to make you faster.
Okay, so make me faster. So if my goal is to have the fastest, I would never have gone northbound. I know that was a decision I made because I wanted to, it was all for aesthetics. It was really a personal choice. I mean, to be honest, my wife and I, it was like a one-shot chance. I wasn't going to have a lot of opportunities to come back, per se. So I wanted to do it basically south to north because it was the traditional through hiking direction. You know, you walk with spring. And so for me, I wanted to have that experience, even though I wasn't going to be able to walk with spring because I was doing it faster. I wanted to basically move along through the through hikers and have more interactions. Because if I had gone southbound, you know, you see people as you're passing by, but unless the few southbounders that are on the trail, I really enjoyed that connection and that chance to like hang out and hike a few miles or sometimes run a few miles with the other through hikers. And it was just one of those aesthetic things. But when I got to New Hampshire and Maine, I was destroyed. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be trail hardy, I'm going to be strong. But as you know, the trail wore me down and as I had less and less time, it would have been a lot smarter to go southbound for sure. And I actually ran with Andrew Thompson and hiked with him in New Hampshire. He came out for a day, and he was the first speed through hiker and runner to actually go southbound. And his whole concept was, why not get New Hampshire and Maine done early? So it's a different strategy. I probably wouldn't have stopped for as many photos and and hung out as much. I mean,
if you wore dark sunglasses, no one would have recognized you.
Exactly. Well, I think people would have found me. And that's the tricky thing. I think it gets into the question earlier about it would be really hard for me, for instance, to do a self-supported journey because people would find me out there, they'd want to run or hike with me, and then a lot of question would get into like, well, did Scott get help? Did somebody pass him an energy bar? So for me, it would be hard to do a self-supported journey where I'm going for time, and I knew people would find me no matter what. And I had a GPS tracker because I wanted to be very transparent and, you know, share my experience with other people, but it definitely slowed me down, there's no question. But at the same time, it probably gave me a little boost. People would join me. I ran with a gentleman who had just recovered from leukemia, and his goal was like, I want to run 30 miles with you. And he joined me in Pennsylvania for 30 miles. It was his, you know, his goal to be healthy enough that he could run with me. And I had so many experiences like that, like, you know, the other through hikers that were out there. And I don't know if I would have changed it, but if I were thinking just for time standpoint, I would probably try to go undercover and probably not spend any time, you know, talking to people and stopping for photos. But again, that was the experience I wanted, and I wanted people to, you know, be a part of it. It's a pretty unique thing. So,
was anyone able to keep up with you for a whole day?
I had definitely some runners come out for a full day. I had some runners, strong ultra runners who came out and they did 50 miles. And again, I was moving a lot slower, so for them to run at my pace and hike, they were able to do it. But the longest through hiker, his name was Karaoke. I don't know if any.
Yes, I know karaoke. Oh, froze.
pretty amazing. So,
All right, well, thanks a lot.
yeah, thank you for the question.
Go ahead.
Hi Scott, I'm Dave.
Hey, Dave.
I was wondering, before you started this, did you have some idea of, like you broke the record by 3 hours, but I was wondering if you actually had like some, time frame in mind well beyond that.
Yeah, so I was trying to be very optimistic, and some people did hear, because I did want to say roughly what I was shooting for. So some people did hear the 42, 43 day range is kind of what I was shooting for, and a lot of people look at that, and even my buddy Carl, who's an ultra runner, he was like, Jen's record is stout. When he came out, he was like, you're dreaming. And I knew it was pie in the sky if everything goes great. And if I hadn't lost the time in the South, in Virginia, Tennessee and North Carolina is where I had the knee injury. If I hadn't lost time there, and I, maybe didn't lose as much sleep in New Hampshire, and I made a couple of errors. And the last gentleman was just asking me about what errors or what things would I change. I probably would have done a little bit shorter days in New Hampshire and actually in Vermont. Vermont was, anybody who hiked Vermont this year, it was one of the wettest they've ever seen in 300 years. And you can't control those things. And I think that's what's cool about the Appalachian Trail. For me, if everything went well, I maybe 43, 44. I know somebody can go 43, 44 if everything goes right. And that's what I love about the records and people setting the bar high, just like Heather Anderson has set another bar high for self-supported. And I think it's a fascinating thing. So yeah, that was my goal. And again, everything had to go right. But
I had one more question. I believe that the Angeles Crest, we were talking about like management of these races and the popularity growing. I believe the Angeles Crest 100 requires entrants to do trail work. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was talking with David Horton. Or do you have a question regarding that? Or?
Well, just wondering if you think like other races should institute that. I mean, it seems like a great way to give back to the trail. You are having an impact on it. And I come from a maintaining kind of frame of mind. I work on the Pacific Crest Trail. So just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I'm one of those crazy trail runners who loves trail work, and I've been working on the trails with the WTA up in Washington for years, and the Issaquah Alps group, and I am 100% behind it. And actually, a lot of races do require it. Wasatch 100, the Western States 100, and interestingly enough, throughout the years before the Western States 100, a week and a half before the race, I would actually go out on the trail and help some other ultra runners do trail work. So you can imagine I'm like trying to win this race, and now they're doing trail work. But it's a great workout, and I think it's a great way to build the community, both from the hiking and the trail running side. So strongly agree with you on that. And yeah, I want to thank you for all your work. And I wish more land management agencies allowed us to do more work. For instance, I live out here in Boulder, and they're really picky about the hiking and trail running groups doing their own trail work. It's like got to be done by the agency. So I think we got to foster good relationships and really build strong clubs that, like the Appalachian Trail, they're out there doing that work. But totally agree with you. In fact, I've talked to David Horton about maybe coming out and doing some work on the AT. It's a long way to travel, but again, we have the Colorado Trail and the Continental Divide Trail. But I'm a firm believer in trail work. It's so rewarding too. It's a great workout, and to see the trail after you've worked on it is pretty phenomenal. Yeah. And there's a few sections on that AT trail that could be worked a little bit. I know some of the clubs like to make it tough.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey Scott, my name is Lyric.
Hey, Lyric.
I'm currently on a southbound hike, so before you say that I better hurry, I hear it every day and I'm well aware.
Man, you got time.
Right. And thank you for the spider web help. We appreciate that. I got more of a comment, I guess.
Yeah.
You've touched on it, and you've talked about what you might do differently, maybe not stopping to so many hikers to talk and hang out. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know who you were before this trail, and a lot of us didn't, and we know who you are, and honestly didn't really give a damn because I didn't know what you were into or whatever. And then
Sure.
I started